glorify you, Jesus. Magnify you, Lord. You're worthy of the glory, Lord.
The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Last week we concluded with the fact that in order to reap a harvest from where you're going to have to sow something from where you are presently at into where you're going to first. And today we're going to look more in depth at the bow. And as you've went through this week, I know that there's been things that have been weighing on your mind. There's been things that you've thought through, things that you're trying to look into the future at, things that you're trying to plan ahead for, things that basically you're trying to regroup for what you're about to go into.
Amen.
And as we started to look at the bow, one thing that you'll have to always keep in mind is the fact that you can't keep looking behind you and hit a target in front of you.
All right now.
Because one of the things that starts to really mess you up is you'll use a part of your day to keep looking back at something that has already passed. And then sometimes you end up spending way too much time on that because you'll get on a rabbit trail of thinking of that thing, and then you'll think of something else that went with that thing, and then you'll just keep going backwards. And the whole point that we've got to understand is we have to understand exactly what the Apostle Paul was trying to get us to see in Philippians 3. And that's why we want to start there again. I want you to go to Philippians chapter 3 and verse 13 and 14, because there's some crucial information that's here. And what I want to make crystal clear is using time to think back daily. Reflection is one thing, but comparison is another. And that's why you've got to be very strategic about when you plan to think back about anything. You better be strategic as to why you're looking back at it. Because if you're not strategic as to why you're looking back at it, you're going to find yourself so focused on what's behind you that you're going to start trying to compare where you are to where you used to be and feel like that was better. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it's not. Where you've been is in no way, shape, form, or fashion even able to be compared to where God's trying to get you to.
Amen.
But the big thing that you've got to understand is not to be trying to compare the two. Because, and I can already see this is probably going to cause me to have to show you some different scriptures to go along with what we've already got to look at today. But when I was first coming along in ministry, there were some things that I had to learn how to do so that I wouldn't find myself struggling about where I'm at along the way. And what I mean by that is, if I were to continually look back on how I used to preach. I can do that one of two ways. I can look back on that and say, well, man, you know, I didn't have to plan a year and a whole year worth of direction. If I wanted to really look back and compare, I could say, well, I could just wait until the day of, and a word could come. I could just wait until I stood up. I could just wait until it came to me then. But what that was really doing at that time is I didn't understand the importance of time. So my preparation was almost zero. I've had word in me for I don't know how long because my wife can attest to it. I would just sit and read and study and read and study and write and put all this stuff. So having the word in me wasn't an issue. I've been through the Bible probably about 5 or 6 times, completely reading it through, just to read it, so that I could see what did I miss, what might I have missed. So I just go through, and sometimes I'll just be reading, no message to prepare, no nothing that I'm focused on, no nothing, and just be reading. And then there's times that when I'm in it to prepare messages, I'm in it to set goals, I'm in it to do different things. What I'm trying to show you is, if I wanted to look back on how I used to preach and what I used to do, I could find ways to justify both places. You can keep looking back and saying, I didn't know better. But what's that got to do with now? Because now you know better. So continually bringing up what you didn't know previously ain't doing you no good. That's why I'm saying you can't keep continually looking back and hit a target in front of you. And that's why you've got to begin to understand how to be more strategic with your thinking. And that's something that I'm going to help you start focusing on in this part of the series. Because if you look with me in Philippians 3, beginning at verse 13 and 14, says, Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do. And I want you to understand that. He said, I might jack up everything else, but this one thing right here, I know how to do. And see, this right here is pretty much the one thing that a lot of y'all don't know how to do. Because you keep looking back. And you keep comparing. And you keep beating up on yourself. And you keep saying, man, if I'd have done this, this, and this, I could already be here. Well, you didn't and you're not. So get over it and let's plan to get where you need to be.
Amen. Amen.
Let's not keep going back through this conversation again and again and again and again and again. Here's why. Because he says, forgetting those things which are where? Behind. And reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark. See, now this is why this is so important. Because a lot of y'all are moving and you're calling it forward, but you ain't got no mark to hit.
All right, come on, Pastor. Oh, Pastor.
So you might just not be headed forward.